Hi guys, this is your streamer Carlos. On today's video, I'm going to give you my rolling review of Blast from the Past, starting Brandon Fraser, and Alicia Silverstone from Clueless. Now, this is I think now this is now guys, this is one of this is a classic this is a classic romantic movie, rom-com to all my family. This is a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I super highly recommend it. So here we go, guys, with my rolling review of Blast from the Past. So just to give you a little bit of context about this rom-com. Imagine Back to the Future, right? Back to the Future without the DeLorean and without 88 miles per hour. That's the best way I can describe Blast from the Past. So here we go. Here we go, guys. First off, the two main characters in this rom-com are actually there's actually four, but technically two. Brendan Fraser's character Adam, and Alicia Silverstone's character Eve. But before I get to Eve, I have to explain to you what is going on with Adam. Adam's mom and dad. So Adam's mom and dad are your typical mom and dad from the 1960s. But here's the thing. Adam's dad, who's played by Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken is a professor at Caltech, and at this time in the 1960s, California 1960s, like the rest of the nation, we're dealing with the chili oil that has been spreading, that has been bubbling up in the frying pan, or in a cooking on the stovetop of the Cold War. So when Calvin, that's Christopher Walken, Adam's dad. So when Adam's mom and dad are having a party, because they're big party people, they interrupt their gathering at their house to hear JFK speak to the nation. To be more specific, speak to Nikita Khrushchev, and to stop the Cuban Missile Crisis, which in truth really happened. So in a funny way, this rom-com, I connect with it because it's U.S. history. It's connected to U.S. history for me. But so after hearing JFK's brief but excellent speech towards the nation, and Nikita Khrushchev, Calvin and Adam's mom stopped the party. Professor Calvin says, "Folks, I think we should stop the party, because things with the Soviet Union are getting pretty serious, and I think tomorrow night we will be highly affected by this situation. Of course, Calvin's colleagues believe that he's a total nut, that he's crazy. But deep underneath the surface, Calvin, yes, he's a very highly educated professor at Caltech, but he's also a great inventor. He's a visionary. So when all things look like peachy and good, a regular jet plummets down onto the Calvin's house. And Calvin, Professor Calvin Christopher Walken, believes that the jet is actually an atomic bomb sent by, of course, the Soviet Union and Nikita Khrushchev. But he has been preparing for such a case if that were to happen, and in his mind, it is happening right now. So he secretly built a highly secure bunker deep underneath the house foundation. So just in case, if something like an atomic bomb, just like happened right now, just like I said before, happen right now, according to Scott. He and his wife, Mrs. Calvin, would be safe. And actually, the underground bunker looked like their house, outside their house. It had everything. Of course, it didn't have a supermarket. Of course, the bunker didn't have a supermarket, but Scott had shelved up food like a supermarket. But of course, Mrs. Calvin wanted Scott to check it out. But since check above the surface, meaning to go up and see if it was an actual atomic bomb. But Scott was pretty certain that in fact it was an atomic bomb that had dropped on their house instead of a jet, an aircraft, a jet aircraft. He sealed the bunker. He sealed the bunker with a 20 year lock, meaning that after 20 years, the lock of the bunker would unlock itself automatically, and therefore, after 20 years, eventually Scott and Mrs. Calvin would go up and return to normal life. But after 20 years, the lock would, so after 20 years, the lock would automatically unlock and they would be able to get out of the bunker. But right after Scott put this 20 year lock on the bunker, Mrs. Scott was actually Mrs. Calvin was actually going into labor because she was pregnant. And Scott, being the intelligent guy, knew what to do. So he delivered the baby named Adam. So Adam didn't have your typical normal childhood. He had a funny childhood because he grew up while living in this bunker underneath his actual house. And what did you may ask, Carlos, what did Adam learn? What did Adam learn in his years underneath the bunker? Well, again, Scott was a professor, so he taught Adam French, Latin, baseball, how to play baseball, both by catching and explaining him the rules of baseball. Like, why does the batter go to first or second base? Like that, stuff like that. And of course, Mrs. Calvin wasn't left behind because Mrs. Calvin taught Adam how to slow dance, how to be a gentleman, how to be self-etiquette with manners, and how to be a gentleman. But meanwhile, above the surface, everything was changing. As Scott and Mrs. Calvin and Adam were underneath in their bunker, underneath their house. Their house was transformed into a diner that was bought by a lady that eventually sold it to her bearded son, and so basically what I'm trying to say is that Scott and Adam and Mrs. Calvin were underneath their house in the bunker. Time had passed, but to them, time remained the same. But to Adam and his mom and dad, time had remained the same. The ramifications, the consequences of the atomic bomb had actually happened, but not really, because time had passed by. In reality, time had passed by. Nothing. No atomic bomb had been dropped down. Yes, time had passed. Time had passed, Time had run its course, but without consequences from the atomic bomb attack. So when the actual day, when the 20-year log day had passed of automatically unlocking itself of the bunker, the lock. Mrs. Calvin asked Scott to go up there to see what's out there, and Scott did just that. did just that. And when he came back, he got some. He gave some news to Mrs. Calvin. Scott said, everyone above the surface, meaning in California in general, are weird. I saw a man basically go. I saw a man go throw up in the street. I saw a woman or a guy dressed up as a girl who tried to hit on me. What I'm trying to say, Scott, to put it in short, Scott said, people above the surface, above us, are just weird. And I don't want you or Adam, or for that matter, all three of us to get infected by these weird people that have been infected by the radiation from the atomic blast, which wasn't true. But at the same time, Mrs. Calvin was losing her socks off. I mean, she was going crazy. She wanted to go out. She wanted to go above the surface. She wanted to explore. She wanted to go to HEB. Like normal, like she used to do. And go out, do stuff. And of course, Scott at this time said no. And of course, Scott, after saying no this intensely, had a heart attack. So Mrs. Calvin said to Adam, I want you to go above the surface, and get some supplies for me. Get some groceries from something that we used to call a grocery store. And I want you to get some cigarettes from something that we used to call a drugstore. and stuff like that, and many other items that I need. And if you find a girl, or if you get hypnotized by a pretty girl, or like a girl, I want you to bring her down here so we can meet her. So me and your dad could meet her. And please, make sure she's from Pasadena, California. And of course, Adam said, "You got you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." So Adam went above the surface. But here's the thing. Above the surface, like I said, the lady's son who owned the diner had convinced his mom to buy the diner from her. So her son turned her old diner into a bar. But again. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that the Calvin's house that used to be there was turned into this bar. And of course, how do you get above the surface? Above the surface, if you were in a bunker, you have an elevator. So Adam got above the surface using this elevator from the bunker. So when the bar owner, meaning the lady's son that turned the diner that his mom owned to this current bar, the current status of a bar. So when Adam rose above the surface, Adam introduced himself to the bar owner, meaning the diner owner's son, and he said, "I'm the son." And you may ask, "What?" You may say, "What? I'm the son. I'm the son." Yes, I'm the son. So what I'm trying to say is that this poor bearded man, when Adam said, "I'm the son," and my mother told me to rise above the surface. Yes, as you can imagine. Yes. So this poor bearded man thinks that he has seen the son of the big G, meaning God. Yes, and vice versa. So this poor bearded man is in shock, and he transforms his bar into a praying bar. Meanwhile, Adam as he's gone above the surface, he goes to the grocery store and buys some stuff, buys everything that his mom and dad need in the bunker. But eventually he loses his sense of direction, and he says, "I'm lost," and he takes a bus to a Holiday Inn. a Holiday Inn, and this is where Eve comes. Eve it works at a collection store. At a collection store where you can buy or sell collector's items like baseball cards in it and stuff like that. So when Adam comes into the collector's item store, he gives Eve a rookie card of I believe Hank Aaron rookie card. I can't remember the guy's name. I can't remember the player's name, but you can check me on that. If you guys have seen Blast from the Past before. So, after giving this baseball card to Eve, Eve had been fighting her head off with her boss, meaning the manager of the store. And when the manager of the store was getting heated and said a bad word to Eve, Adam said politely to the manager, "I want you to stop, sir. That's not the way that we speak. That we speak to a lady." And of course, Eve is like totally freaked out in a kind of good way, but freaked out in a scary way, but in a kind of good way too. That this guy that just came, this total stranger, came into my store and gave me his baseball card and defended me from being blasted by my manager with his words and mouth. So eventually Eve hooked up Adam with a ride to the Holiday Inn. Now again, next to the bar that underneath the bunker is where Adam and his family live. Next to the bar, where Adam and his family underneath the bar, there's guys, before I continue, let me give you a full disclosure. If you guys have a young family member that you don't want them to see this rolling review of mine, viewer discretion advised. So, viewer discretion is advised. So again, next to the bar, where underneath the bunker where Adam and his mom and dad live, Mrs. Calvin and Mr. Calvin Scott live. Next to the bar, there's an adult bookstore, meaning where you meaning where, as you can imagine, you can get extremely extremely adult stuff. I'm not gonna get into it, but you guys can imagine what I'm talking about. So after a while, Adam eventually gets acquainted with Eve. Gets acquainted with Eve, and Eve does vice versa, gets acquainted with Adam. And Adam explains to Eve that in fact my mom and dad live. My mom and dad and me are living underground in a bunker that is underneath a barn. Underneath the barn, next to an adult bookstore, and Eve is like, this is nuts. And Adam's like, I need supplies. So eventually Eve takes Adam into her house. Meanwhile, as her guest, and introduces her to her best friend, Roy. No, Troy. I believe it's Roy or Troy, but I'm gonna go with Troy. So after getting kind of, so what I'm trying to say, guys, after getting himself into Eve's house as a friendly guest, kind of guest, but not really house guest. One night, Troy and Eve wanted to go out and have some fun, like out to a bar or nightclub. And at this point, Adam had told Eve that his family were from Alaska. We're from Alaska. And at this point, Eve didn't know the wonderful abilities that Adam had, or the wonderful secret education that Adam had. So at this nightclub, two girls were pulled in by Adam's sweet dancing moves that weren't from Alaska. And of course, Eve was like totally, insanely jealous, but shocked and in disbelief that a guy from Alaska named Adam could dance like that. And Troy was like in total happy shock and disbelief. And not only that, but after dancing with these two girls, Adam spoke French to another girl that was captivated and entranced by his sweet moves. At the same time, Eve's ex-boyfriend had come to the bar, and eventually Adam and Eve's ex-boyfriend got into a scuffle. Meanwhile, 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 Mrs. Calvin had to go up. Yes, had to go up. Had to go up because she was starting to get a little bit worried about Adam. So Mrs. Calvin got onto the elevator and she went up, and this poor bearded owner of the bar thought that Mrs. Calvin was actually married. And in fact, the funny fact is that Mrs. Calvin said, "I'm the mother. I am the mother." So after hearing this poor bearded dude fell in completely utter happy shock, because he had seen the mother of all mothers, Mother Mary. But before the sun came up and the mother came up, he had seen the father. Yes, he had seen Scott. The father, because, like I said before, Scott went up the surface before Adam did. Went up to the surface before Adam did. And Scott had his radiation suit. And he said when he went up the when he went up to the surface using the elevator from the bunker that he had built, he said, "I'm the father to this poor dude." So who can blame the dude? Who can blame the bearded dude? Going back to Adam. Adam couldn't understand why he was so upset and mad at him for having fun and dancing with these two girls and captivating another, and also fighting getting into a fist street fight with her ex-boyfriend. And Adam was like, "Well, Eve, I'm sorry. I was built and formed this way. I was educated this way. When a girl is being mistreated or being mistreated by a guy or by some stranger, I need to defend that girl's honor." And he was like, "Adam, I don't need you to defend my honor. I can defend myself. I can defend myself. Just go away and get out of my house and go back where you came from." And Adam was like, Troy, I was just trying, and Troy was like, "Yeah, I know, but you know what, Adam, you're a sweet you're a sweet, sweet boy. But what my friend Eve, what Eve needs is a total hunk of a man, and you're a boy. Eventually, after this little spat, this little fight between Eve and Adam, Eve was invited by the by the third girl that was captivated by him to her house to get for her to seduce him and for him to eventually fall in love with her. But Adam didn't fall for her. Adam didn't get seduced. So he returned. So using basic logic, Adam returned to Eve's house. By this time, Eve was preparing to go on a run. So to go on a run in the rain. So when Adam returned, Eve was preparing to run. And obviously when Adam said, I'm back. Subtextually, of course. Eve lost her balance and fell down. And she scraped her knee. Yes, she scraped her knee. So what did Adam do? He said something philosophical, but also with an undertone of being undertone of romantic. He said to Eve as he was getting a Band-Aid onto Eve's scraped leg. You know, Eve. My dad always taught me, or always says to me, when you see a pretty girl, you need not only you need to be focused on how she looks on the outside, but you also need to look on the inside too. And if that girl is cute and bubbly and awesome on the inside as she's on the outside, meaning that she has meaning that she's pretty. If you try really hard, and if you're captivated by this pretty girl, you will fall in love with her, and you will do your best for her to fall in love with you, and eventually you will be married. You will get married, and that's what true love is. So as Adam was telling her this, and as Adam was also trying to sticking a Band-Aid to Eve's scraped leg, something changed in and Eve's tone of voice. She was captivated. She was captivated. She was captivated by Adam's great words. And she almost kissed him. And it was an almost great kiss. She was this close, an inch, maybe 3 inches from kissing Adam. By the way, Adam had never seen the ocean, or the sky. So before he went to get groceries for his mom and dad, for the first time, Adam had seen the sky, and he was so captivated by the beauty of the blue sky, by the beauty of the California blue sky, that he was just happy. Now with Eve, Adam had never been to the beach, or had never seen the ocean. So when Eve and Troy got Adam to the beach, Troy and Eve were captivated, entranced, and captivated by the sincerity of total happy shock from Adam for seeing the ocean for the first time. Now let's fast forward a little bit. Eve was basically at this point doubting Adam was telling the truth, that Adam was telling the truth, that in fact his mom and dad and him were living underneath in a bunker above a bar. So what did Eve do? She did the most logical thing that she could think of. She called a social worker. She called a social worker. And when the social worker spoke to Adam said, I remember now. I'm not lost. I need to go back home. I need to go back home underneath to the bunker. And of course the social worker and her co-worker said, no, this is not happening. This can't be true. This young man cannot be serious. He doesn't. His mom and dad do not live. His mom and dad and him do not live in a bunker underneath a barn. So eventually, Eve was like, yes, I believe Adam. I believe Adam is telling the truth. He does live underneath. He does live in a bunker underneath a bar with his mom and dad. But at this point, the social worker and her coworker had called the cops. And Adam before getting kind of getting running away and to an undisclosed location at this point. He basically reversed Eve's car or Troy's car and reversed it back to this social worker's car, and he basically destroyed it. After this whole debacle, Eve was destroyed. Her heart was broken. She felt weird that her heart was broken, and she was like, she decided to check where Adam went to before if he was telling the truth. That his mom and dad and him lived underneath a bunker. So Eve and Troy went to the Holiday Inn, went to his room, and in fact, Eve found Adam's toothpaste. That was from the 1960s. It didn't say the date. But it looked like a 1960s toothpaste. That at this time, after 30 years, would make you, if you would sell your old 1960s toothpaste, would make you a billionaire. And after realizing that in fact Adam's toothpaste and everything else that he had in his hotel room was from the 1960s, and if sold, would make Adam a billionaire. And Troy said, Eve, you always do this. Your past love track record proves it. You fall in love with a guy, with a guy that loves collecting baseball cards and selling them. But for the first time ever, you found Adam, who tried to sell your car, who tried to sell his baseball card to you, and that he was telling the truth when he said that my mom and dad that me and my dad and mom live underneath a bunker, and he also is a billionaire. So what did even Troy do? Troy and Eve drove around, and eventually Eve was able to locate, or Adam eventually went outside outside the adult bookstore, and he saw he saw he saw he saw Eve. He saw Eve, and Eve kissed him. Then Adam said, I'm going to take you down to meet my parents. So Eve and Adam went down to the bunker, and for Mrs. Calvin, this was a big A plus regarding Eve. Eve told Mrs. Calvin that in fact she was from Pasadena. Then we see a time lapse of about 3 months later. Adam and Eve are happily living their love, but with a plan. Adam and Eve told Mrs. Calvin and Scott to set the bunker door, the bunk lock for 3 months, and after those 3 months, we will come and get you. We will come and get you to go up to the surface, and we will do something for you. Which in fact Adam did. In those 3 months, Adam had acquired a house for his mom and dad deep into the California, deep in California, and Adam eventually told his dad the truth. His dad the truth that in fact the atomic bomb that had enclosed them, all three of them, into the bunker, that sealed them into the bunker, was in fact a jet. And Adam told his dad. Adam told his dad Scott that we won, meaning that we won the Cold War. And Scott was like, cool, awesome. Not like he didn't say awesome, but awesome. And eventually, Scott was pacing or was doing his grass check. By the way, guys, Adam and Eve had to convince the bar owner, the diner owner's son, that in fact Adam, his mom, Mrs. Calvin, and Scott weren't the Son of God, or the Mother, or the Holy Spirit. So, going back to the climax of the movie, Scott did his grass check, and guys, and Adam's mom and dad's new house was on about 30 in a 30 acre area, and that's so. With that being said, guys, that's how this wonderful rom-com of the past ends. So with that being said, guys, thank you for watching. Remember to leave a like and let me know if you guys have seen this to my knowledge, in my opinion, one of the most underrated rom-coms. One of the most underrated rom-coms. And also tell me what is your favorite, what other favorite rom-com movie do you have? So with that being said, guys, thank you for watching, and again, remember to leave a like, and may the YouTube be with you. Bye.